Thank you, everybody, for joining in the NMFTA Ask Us Anything. We are giving everybody a minute to join. We see people still joining, then we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I show one after. So thank you for joining the ClassIT Plus and NMFC Ask Us Anything. This is our Q&A. So this is where we answer any questions about the NMFC data changes. In addition, we talk about the item lookup tool that we released a few months ago, in addition to ClassIT Plus. So we always give a little bit of an overview about some timelines, agenda, but then we also will give you a little bit of glimpse of some of the changes that we're making in ClassIT Plus that we get a lot of questions about. So on the next slide, joining me today and are Holly and Adam. So I'll let them introduce themselves, but I'm Joe Orr, the Chief Operating Officer at NMFTA, and I've been focused on the classification changes in addition to the technology changes of ClassIT Plus. Holly, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Holly Taylor. I'm the Director of Product at NMFTA, and my primary focus has been ClassIT Plus and getting the new product released.
Okay, thanks. And Adam.
Hi, everyone. I'm Adam Mercer. I'm the Classification Development Manager at NMFTA. My focus is the changes to the NMFC that you see, like in docket 2025-1.
Okay, and a lot of, for those that typically join us, Keith usually joins. Keith is out, so thanks to Adam for filling in, and probably will be an upgrade from Keith, and I'll say that because Keith's not here. All right, so some important dates to remember. We did a presentation at SMC3, and I told them, this slide used to be a lot of different dates. Now it's just 3, and it's really 1 in the past and 2 in the future. And so April 21st, we released the NMFC Item Lookup Tool. And we've got over 12,000 registered users on that. And so that's where you can look for what are the changes to your items that are in the 2025-1 docket. So that is something that we heard back from everyone that, hey, we need something prior to release of ClassIT Plus, not having to go through everything, where we can just type in an item number and look to see what is changing. And if I'm a carrier, I want to give it to my shipper, or if I'm a 3PL, 4PL, I want to be able to look at a list of items. And so again, we've got over 12,000 people that are registered, and we see hundreds and hundreds of people using this daily. Then on July 15th, we will release ClassIT Plus. That's gone through a completed beta on both the UI and the API. Then on the 19th, the NMFC data changes are effective. And so we are still on target for that. Also, I want just a reminder, at the bottom is a Q&A button. So anytime throughout this, please use that button to answer any questions. The goal of this meeting is, or the goal of this webinar is to answer any questions that you may have, whether it be on the item lookup tool, on ClassIT Plus, or about the classification changes. All right, on the next slide. Holly.
Yeah. Thanks. Here's a list of some key resources that we put together for everyone for updates on or information about the NMFC data changes. Please go to changes.com. And to actually utilize and register and use the NMFC Item Lookup Tool, go to getclassification.com. It's a really simple tool, like Joe was saying. And if you've never used it before, all you have to do is register. It's free to use, and you'll be able to see what changes are coming for your items. To get more information about ClassIT Plus, go to classitplus.com. This site has is just filled with information about ClassIT Plus, the transition to ClassIT Plus, as well as API documentation on just the entire user interface, pricing, and as well as all of the webinars that we've had in the past. They're at the very bottom. We've recorded everything. So please go out there and take a look. There's a demo there as well. We've gotten a lot of questions in the past about how can I see a demo. So if you go to classitplus.com, you'll see a demo, a recorded demo. And you can also go to help.nmfta.org. That is our newest help center, and it has a complete library of articles for you regarding classification, ClassIT Plus. All of the documentation that we have right now is available, even though we're still technically in beta. So you can take a look and you can start to plan for the transition to ClassIT Plus.
Okay, thanks, Holly. All right, and the next slide just really kicks this off. So we've already got a couple questions, and then there are some things that we want to show, but let's start with some questions. And so Adam, we'll start with you. So docket 2, so let's talk about 2025-2. I know we got a lot of questions about this week. You know, 2025-1 is the biggest docket we've ever done in history. Typically, you know, we do a fraction of what's in 2025-1. 2025-2 is going to be much smaller. Now, this whole process is called classification reimagination. We expect it's going to take 2 or 3 years. Can you talk about the timing of docket of 2025-2? And I know it's not finalized, but how many things or how many items or codes do you think will be impacted by 2025-2? And again, I know it's an estimate.
Yeah, sure. To be honest, I don't really have an estimate number of codes. I would say, expect a docket of the size before -1. Obviously, we're not going to hit the size of -1 exactly. And the reason I don't have that estimate is just because we're still taking a look at different generic headings. We're still going through items, and that can really vary the number of items that end up appearing on the docket based on the sizes of the headings we look at and the work we do within them. But in terms of, volume of total changes, certainly not the size of 2025-1. And probably more in line with the size of the dockets you saw leading up to that.
Which was how many typically, Adam?
It was in the hundreds, I'd say. I think we total item count probably come around or a bit higher than that because again, when you're dealing with generic headings, you get large item counts compared to the types of proposals we were doing beforehand. But that ballpark, I'd say.
And this has how many?
I tell you the truth, I don't remember off the top of my head. It's in the thousands. I think 3,000-ish is the number off the top of my head, but I would not hold me to that.
Okay. So yeah, it's magnitudes higher. So
Yeah.
we typically do hundreds and this has well over 3,000.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when should people start using the new NMFC codes?
So that's the July 19th date that everyone's seen. So that's when the changes will become active. You'll see them in ClassIT, and that's also the same date you should change over and start using all the new codes.
Okay. And then Holly, can you talk a little bit about, so what if I'm an SMC3 customer and I'm transitioning to ClassIT, what is the process? And when will I be sent information to register for ClassIT? Or if I'm an existing Class IT, when will I get information on registering for Class IT? Can you talk a little bit about those two processes? You're on mute.
Thank you, Joe. I'm actually going to show you. So we have, you go to nmfta.org/contact, and this is where you can contact customer service. So if you are a current SMC3 Fast Class customer, you would do one of two things. You could come here and you can fill out a form and send that form to our customer service and tell them that you would like to transition from Fast Class to Class IT Plus. You can also go to our help center. You can click right here and go to our help center and go to Class IT Plus. We have an entire section on transitioning to Class IT Plus. And in that section, we have an article on current Fast Class users to transition to, right here, sorry, I was on the wrong one, to Class IT Plus. And if you click on that article, down at the bottom here, it says, how do I transition to Class IT Plus? You would simply click on this link and then you would be taken to this form and you would fill out this form. And by filling out this form, that tells us that you want to transition to Class IT Plus. If you choose to contact customer support first, because you can't find the form or you didn't remember how, they will send you to the exact same form. So once you fill out that form, that's how we know that, hey, I'm a Fast Class user and I would like to transition over to Class IT Plus. We will honor your current expiration date. So if you are a Fast Class user and your product, your subscription expires in October, you can transition over to Class IT Plus for free, and then you will get access to Class IT Plus through your expiration date. And then at your expiration date, if you want to continue using Class IT Plus, you'll just have to renew. For our current customers, for our current Class IT subscribers, you will actually automatically transition over to Class IT Plus. There is nothing else that you need to do. We will transition over all of your subscribers, and we're going to do that transition in 2 phases. And this applies to the Fast Class users as well. If you've already reached out to us, or if you're going to reach out to us soon, then we will have your information. And around July 7th, that week of July 7th, the company administrators are going to get an email, and it's going to be an Okta activation email. And that email, you just need to follow the instructions, and that email will give you access to your login for Class IT Plus. And your company administrator will have that early access so they can go in and they can set up their company settings. On July 14th, we will start automatically transitioning over all of the user licenses or non-company admin licenses to your company's accounts. And what does that mean? That means those users will get their Okta activation email right around the 14th, and all they have to do is follow the instructions in that email, and they will get their Okta login for Class IT Plus. I believe I answered everything. Did I miss anything, Joe?
No, that sounds
Awesome.
good.
Perfect.
So one of the questions, and we get this a lot. So when someone uses the item lookup tool, it gives the item number, but it doesn't give the name and description. And then if someone wants to get the item description, where would they find that information? Adam, I'll ask you that question.
Yeah, sure. So if you're looking for the description, you can take a look at the disposition bulletin, which is on our public docket files. Or if you're a subscriber and have access to the supplement already, then you can find it there. So if you're looking at in the supplement and disposition, you can look up the new item number, whatever the lookup tool tells you, like that specific number, you can search for it. If you're looking at the docket, which I wouldn't recommend because there were some modifications to the docket, I would look at the disposition bulletin. But if you are searching in the docket for something, the new item numbers aren't in there because when the docket is issued, those aren't decided on yet, and they're just marked per proposal as like A new, B new, C new. But That would be the answer. Use the disposition bulletin, and you can search the document for the new item number that you're given from the lookup tool.
Yeah,
And then
sorry, Joe, I'm pointing out here where you can find that disposition bulletin, and you can actually view the disposition of subjects or the disposition bulletin. And if you are a current ClassIT subscriber, there's actually an expanded version of the bulletin that is in ClassIT under documents.
And then Holly, could they put the item number in ClassIT and even the existing ClassIT, and would it come up with the description itself?
If it's a brand new item number for 2025-1, no. So the only data that's in the current ClassIT system is the pre-2025-1, so the 2024 data. So
Right.
if it's a brand new item, they'll have to wait till ClassIT Plus comes out, and then that's where they can search for it.
Okay. Now, what NMFTA does, one of the questions has to do with billing. So we don't do anything related to pricing or billing. We are simple classification. So one of the questions it says item 170, how will this affect rebills for our shippers? So Adam, knowing that we don't do billing specifically, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, for sure. So 170 basically just spells out that the density needs to be provided on the bill of lading. So when you see an NMFC item that has the different density groups and provides classes based on them, you'll see reference to item 170. And that's basically just saying that you have to show the density on the bill of lading. And if it's not shown and the shipment is inadvertently accepted, the charges will be assessed on the basis of the class applicable at the lowest density provided. So it's the same as it's always been. It would be in summary, we didn't make any changes to 170 or what it means on this docket.
Okay. And then the item lookup tool, the next question's a couple different questions. So I'm going to break it up a little bit. So the item lookup tool is something that we knew would be popular, but it's much more popular than what we anticipated. And so its life expectancy is much longer than what we expected, which is great. It's a tool that people want. And so once 2025-1 is released, the question is what's going to happen to the lookup tool, and will it have the 2025-tool changes? So Holly, can you talk a little bit about how we're going to incorporate the lookup tool and how the timing of that?
Yeah, so our plan is to integrate the lookup tool into ClassIT Plus by October so that you can actually go into ClassIT Plus and look up the changes that are coming in -2. So we want to be prepared for the timeline of -2, and maybe Adam can share some of those high-level dates in the timeline for -2. And in October is when it would become, Adam will correct me, I believe that's when the disposition bulletin comes out, I believe in mid-October. And that's when you can then use the NMFC item lookup tool to reference those items and how they're going to change on -2. Is that right, Adam?
I believe that is correct. I don't have the exact date in October in
Yeah,
front of
yeah,
me, but yeah, there
yeah,
won't be any, until that disposition is issued, the
yes.
lookup tool cannot tell you what the new item is. So
Exactly. So
yeah.
yeah, so moving forward, the lookup tool will be a part of ClassIT Plus, and it will be dependent on the disposition bulletin. So we have a very steady cadence that we follow each time we do an update. And so the disposition bulletin is always released, I believe it is 60 days before the effective date. And so is that about right? 60 days? Yes.
Mhm.
So 60 days before the effective date of any change, you will always be able to go into ClassIT Plus and use the lookup tool to find out how your items will change.
And the effective date of that docket is roughly into November.
I believe it
Um,
is December 6th, roughly.
December 6th. Oh, that's
Yes.
right. Because,
Yep.
we did move it because of the
Because of the
holiday.
holiday. Yes.
Yep. Okay. All right. And then Adam, do we have to put the pallet dimensions on our BOL?
So no, when you're calculating the density of a shipment, that calculation includes the pallet, but you don't need the pallet separately dimensioned. So the dimension of the entire handling unit, the cube of that entire handling unit is what you're going to use to calculate density. Now, if you were dealing with a mixed shipment and trying to itemize different items all in one shipment mixed together, you would need the weight of the pallet, but the dimension of the pallet is just included in the dimension of the entire handling unit.
Okay. And then so there's Class IT and the Class IT Plus. So will we have access to Class IT Plus on July 1st? And then I also want to talk about, Holly, can you also talk about how long we're going to leave Class IT on? And then talk about when we're going to turn Class IT Plus on.
Yes. So early access for Class IT Plus is going to be permitted for that company admin level. And that is that will be July 7th. So we always knew it was going to be early July, and now it is July 7th. So that'll be the early access for the company administrator. Regarding the rest of the users, the other licensed users, those non-administrator users, that will be July 15th. And the current Class IT will actually stay up and running until November 15th. Now, the biggest difference is that current Class IT will not have 2025-1. Class IT Plus is the only place where you can go to search and to find 2025-1.
Okay. So Adam, if handling, stowing and liability indicators added, does that mean that classes will have a value per pound now? Will there be a new class? What does that mean?
Yeah, so
And the
that
example they gave was 133300 for machinery.
Gotcha, yeah. So that indicator doesn't cause any changes on its own. Now, in the future, you might see an item get updated to change, the way its classes apply at the same time that indicator is added to it. But what we did on -1 is if there's an item and the indicator gets put on it, there's no change to the application of that item or how the classes apply. That indicator is simply there so that it's clear to everybody that, hey, the classes here were developed based on known handling, stowing, and or liability issues. But you don't have to
Okay.
worry about the indicator and the way it affects the application.
What if a carrier or a shipper wants to utilize the code sooner than July 19th?
I would say they can't. It's great that you're on the ball and know what code you're going to need to be using, but until July 19th, those provisions are not in effect. So, they effectively don't exist yet. We've just, put it
Okay.
out so everyone can prepare.
Okay. And then Adam, if someone's got like specific questions, let's say about the size of the crate, how they ship, and the class that they use, how can they get a hold of someone at NMFTA to help advise them, whether it's the packaging rules, the classification rules? How can they get a hold of you guys to answer these questions?
Sure. So for general NMFC questions, you can contact us at fcdc@nmfta.org. Feel free to send questions there. Now, for help with specific, like, hey, what is the item for this product? That is our interpretations department. So that would be a request you'd submit through our interpretations portal. That's a completely separate process. And same deal with packaging. If you need an interpretation of packaging, it's the same portal, but, there'll be a packaging interpretation. So, it kind of depends on the nature of the question, but you can always send general questions to us and we can direct you where to go if need be.
Okay. If a specific NMFC number is not in 2025-1, will it still be rated as a PCF new class rates?
So no, if you don't see your item in 2025-1, don't expect any changes to it. We 2025-1 includes all of the changes that we made. So if there was a change to your item, it would have appeared on the docket.
Okay. And then can you talk about the mixed article rules or the various 96 high rules that carriers have the tariffs. Now, again, we don't deal with tariffs specifically, but talk about the mixed article rules and the 96 high rules.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, like you said, we have no control or, impact on carrier tariffs. That's, their domain. As for us, we are taking a look at our rules. We don't see our greatest dimension, the way we assess that changing anytime soon. We're going to keep doing that the way we've been doing it. As for 640 and other rules, we're taking a look at them and we're making sure we review our various rules to be sure they're still in line with our goals with the changes that we've been making.
Okay. For density items, one shipment with multiple pallets, different dims and weights, can the shipper do an average? And I know we get this question quite a bit, but how are things working with multiple pallets? Maybe talk a little bit about how that may change.
Right. So if you have one shipment of all one NMFC item code, then you can use the density of that total shipment, the multiple handling units. Mixed shipments get a bit more complicated. I'd say a bit too complicated to get into right now for a total explanation, but you can always review Rule 640 for a very long explanation of how a mixed shipment can work.
Okay. And then Holly, talk about the differences. This is a good question and setup question for you. Talk about the difference between ClassIT and ClassIT Plus.
So both tools are built to allow you to search the NMFC data, but for ClassIT Plus, we took it a step further, and we created a brand new UI that not only allows you to search, but it supports your search. And what do I mean by that? We're providing an updated, a very modern search engine that is more similar to what you're used to when you use an internet-based search engine. We've upped the performance so that you'll see results within half a second. And we've just provided a much more user-friendly and intuitive layout and style for the application. You're right now, you're looking at the dashboard, and this is the homepage for ClassIT Plus. So search is right here, accessible right at the top. We provide these additional features, and these features are what I call those supportive features to search. And what do I mean by that? Well, when I search for an item, if I search for 17755 and I click search, this is what we call that default search, and it takes us directly to the item. And so you just see all of the item's details. Well, if I click on this more options icon, you'll already see that this is a favorite. I can actually mark this item as a favorite because it's something that I go to all the time, so I want to quickly find it. And because it's a favorite, I can come back to the dashboard, and in my favorites tile, let's let it load here for a second. In my favorites tile, I will then find that favorite. And on the dashboard, these tiles expand so that you can see more information, or they collapse. I can also go directly to the My Favorites page, which lists all of my favorites. So we're just providing these supportive features. Again, it's a quicker way to find something, to search for something. Now, not only do we have favorites, we also allow you to see your search history. And we also provide synonyms so that you can easily create and establish synonyms for items that you may reference using different terminology. We also give you access to collaborative tools like a company common that allow you can actually share your favorites, your search history, your comments. Comments, I haven't really talked about that. Anywhere that you are accessing an item's information, like whether it's in search results or even from the favorite. So this will take me directly to the search results. I can access comments, and I can actually add a comment and then share it directly with my company. And what does that mean? I can actually go right to the company common, and it'll show everything that I've shared with my organization. So anyone who has access to ClassIT Plus, we all have access to the company common if the company admin has set it up. So one of the great things about ClassIT Plus is it does give each organization the flexibility to set up ClassIT Plus in a way that best fits their company and their users. So standard features, favorite, search history, and the NMFC book, those are always available. Things like comments, synonyms, and company common can be customized to fit your organization's needs. What do I mean by that? Well, maybe you don't want to enable the company common, so then you don't have that enabled, but you do want to provide comments and synonyms to each of your individuals. Or perhaps maybe you want to provide synonyms but not comments. So the company admin is really able to kind of customize the experience for their company and their users. And speaking of customizing, we do provide you the ability to customize the dashboard. So you can actually pin and unpin any one of these tiles or these features. You see how the background, the dashboard automatically adjusts, and I can add them back in. I can even move them around by just kind of clicking on the organize icon and dragging it around. And as I drag this around, I'll see, again, the tiles reorganizing themselves in the background. One of probably the most anticipated features is the ability to anticipate the changes, to see what's new. We talked about how in October, we're going to implement the NMFC Item Lookup Tool. We also have this tool that's called What's New. And when you go to the What's New page, it will show you all of the changes that have become effective with the latest supplement. So you can see anything that's been created, anything that's been amended or changed, or anything that's been canceled. And if something has been canceled and it has been canceled with a reference or replaced with another item, you'll actually see the item that replaced it right here. Clicking the search icon will take you directly to that item. And so this What's New page is really a highly anticipated feature so that people can easily see the changes when they become effective. As we continue to grow and make additional changes and ClassIT Plus grows, you'll notice here that you have this bell icon. What does that mean? This bell icon means that it is a change in the latest supplement, which means it'll be found on that What's New page. When you see something that is red and crossed out, it means it's been canceled. And when you see something that is this kind of lightish yellow tan color, it means it's been amended. And by clicking on that icon, it'll take you to that page. Now, this is our beta site. And I can actually go to our test site to show you that if I click on the bell icon, it'll actually take you directly to the What's New page, and it'll actually have that item highlighted so you can see it specifically. And I can see right here that this is going to replace this item. This is being canceled. It's on the canceled tab, and it's going to be replaced. Again, so if I were to look at, just give this a moment to refresh. This is our test site. If I was looking at something that has a change, perhaps I would just click on this bell icon. And again, it'll take me directly to the What's New page. It'll take me to that amended tab with that item highlighted at the top, so I know. I can click on it to see additional information about it. It's just like a little quick view summary. And again, I believe that's everything. I didn't talk about the calculator. The way the calculators work have not changed. The function of the calculator has not changed, but what has changed is both the lookout and we provided an additional tool. So here we have the ability to reference or look up an item as I'm working on my calculation. So let's say I want to look up an item and I just, right there it is, I can actually search for it and then I select it and then it will become right here. It'll be brought into my calculator page so I can easily reference and I can see all of the classes as I'm going through and determining my calculations. If I'm in search, I can also quickly access the calculator as well by, again, clicking the more options icon and clicking on the calculator. And if I access the calculator through search, you'll see it automatically populates the referenced box for me. One other thing that I didn't discuss is we have several search options. So if I am looking for, let's say I'm looking for a keyword, instead of a direct item number, let's say I'm looking for lumber. You're noticing how I have these suggestions popping up as I'm typing. We also have the ability to do a detailed search. We also have the ability to filter by specific dates, effective dates, a range, specific supplements, and docket. So we're really providing different ways to search. So if I do the detailed search, what does that mean? It means it displays my results in a tabbed format, organized by tabs. It's organized by article, index, rule, package, supplement, or docket. So this is just another way to see the bigger picture. If I'm looking for specific keywords and I don't really know the item number I'm looking for, this is where that's when I would use that detailed search to really hone in on the item I'm looking for. And when we display search results in this way, we display the actual result for that item. By clicking on See More, it'll provide additional information within that generic header so that you can scroll through and browse through that generic header. So we want to provide you with information. So the lumber group is that top level generic header, and that's why when I clicked more, it expanded down. If I were to select a different result, you would see a See More above and below. And so that provides me the ability to see above that item and also below. Another way to view this information is you can see here, these are all links or tooltips that provide additional information. I can also click on the item number itself and a pop-up or dialog box will open. And from here, I'm able to print or email these details. I can, again, anywhere I see that favorite icon, I can mark it as a favorite. Anywhere I see that calculator, I can go directly to the calculator and it will pre-populate with this item as my reference. So there's a lot of differences, Joe. You asked me a simple question, but I gave you a very complicated answer.
I appreciate it. So hopefully that helped. There are a lot of differences.
Yeah.
Also there are, we did work with SMC3 to make sure that, the product, we looked at their product, obviously. We also looked at any enhancements that they had gotten to make sure we had captured them, which the good news is that we had. So a lot of work went into this, and the good news is that, we got a lot of feedback from you guys, so we believe it hits the mark. So Holly, I know we talked one time in the last one of these about coming up almost like with a glossary of what the different things in the lookup tool mean. And that's in the works, but don't think it's finalized yet, to my knowledge.
Nope,
But
has
we've
not.
got questions about what the different things are. So let's talk a little bit about that, Adam. What does cancel with no further application mean?
So that means we canceled a provision, with it not being applicable for whatever reason. There can be a number of reasons. You'll most often see this attached to like a note, a note clarifying an item. We might have determined, okay, with the changes we made, this note is no longer necessary, so this note's canceled. You don't need to see it anywhere else. Whereas if we canceled a note and reestablished it elsewhere, then we might cancel it with reference to a different item number. You'll see it with generic headings and things because when we get rid of a heading, there's nowhere else to see. We just got rid of that piece of organization. It's uncommon, but not impossible to see it on an item. Oftentimes, if an item is canceled with no reference to any other item number, it's because we thought it was obsolete. Oftentimes, we'll use that language, though. We'll say believed to be obsolete, or just we determined there was no longer any place for that item anymore.
Okay. And if it says full density updated from 11 sub to 13 sub, talk a little bit about, why we went from 11 sub to 13 sub and the expansion of the full density from 11 to 13 sub and what exactly that means.
Yeah, sure. So one of the changes we made on -1 was we updated our full scale density, which is, the scale we use when we are going to have an item determined, break it down by the full density scale. We moved that from 11 options to 13 different buckets of densities. And the reason we did that is because the 11 sub was limiting us a bit in that it didn't have great, it didn't really encompass those higher density classes as well as we might have hoped. So we would run into situations where we had a commodity that we thought full scale density would be a great fit for, but there were enough shipments we were seeing that were very dense that, we thought, well, we can't put it on there because then those very dense shipments won't be properly classed. The 13 sub added classes 55 and 50, so that situation no longer an issue, and we're able to use the scale much more freely. When you see that text in the lookup tool from 11 to 13, that just means this item was full scale before, providing 11 subs, and it now provides 13 subs, because of that change we made.
Okay. And from a documentation perspective, if an item moves to density, should a customer, whether you're a shipper, a carrier, or a 3PL, 4PL, do you provide the NMFC number and subclass or just the density base class? What should you provide in your documentation?
Definitely still provide the NMFC number and subclass. That lets, carriers know what it is you're moving. There's a description box as well, but that NMFC number and class should match that density, right? But that is information that is still important to have on the bill of lading.
Okay. And, Holly, you can get that through the ClassIT Plus API, and even if it is density, it will report that in the API, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And then Holly, you mentioned that the spreadsheet of new items is available in the current ClassIT in the Documents tab. Can you demo where that's located?
Absolutely. Let me get logged in. How about we answer another question and then circle back to this one? I'll get logged in.
Okay. Adam, can you talk about hazmat
Sure.
and how that's going to be handled moving forward?
So to talk about how it's going to be handled, no different from before. We did not touch our hazmat items, made no changes to them, but I can talk about how it is handled. So in the NMFC, you'll find items that are for specific types of hazmat classifications, and it's providing classes sometimes based on packing group, sometimes density, other things, but you can find item numbers that are based on hazmat classification. You'll also find other item numbers that are on something that is sometimes hazardous, and you'll often see a note on it that says, does not apply on items or on commodities regulated by the DOT. That means that item cannot be used for hazmat shipments, and you should go look for the associated hazmat item in the NMFC.
So nothing's changed related to hazmat, right, with 2025-1?
That's correct. We didn't make any changes to our hazmat items or how they apply.
But hazmat is something we're looking at in the future.
We are taking a look at it. No promises as to when it will change, but we are assessing, the way we have those items organized and the items themselves.
Okay. Can you clarify a little bit your answer on the pallet DIMS on the BOL? Right now, the question is, we don't currently put any DIMS on our BOL. Do we need to start?
So what's strictly necessary is the cube and the density. You need the DIMS to get the cube, but if you just put the cube on the BOL, I mean, this is really up to your carrier more than it is up to us. Most every BOL I've seen has a place for the DIMS, and I would recommend putting them there. Just more information for everybody. But what's strictly necessary to calculate density is cube and weight.
Okay.
Joe, would you like me to show
go ahead
if
you're ready. Yep.
So if you're logged into the current ClassIT, if you go to Documents and then scroll down underneath the FCDC section, you will see the expanded disposition bulletin spreadsheet. So again, on the Documents, you just scroll down under the FCDC section. And that's it.
Okay. Holly, can you talk about the different devices that we're going to support in ClassIT Plus?
Yeah, absolutely. So ClassIT Plus was built to be adaptable. So it'll adapt to any device that you use, whether you're using a desktop, a laptop, a tablet, or a phone. Pretty much we've been building this to be accessible and adaptable anywhere that you are. So it will be available on any mobile device as well as your laptop or desktop.
Okay. And then there's kind of two parts as far as how far back the supplements will go in Class IT Plus. So what's online, and then how far back can you go as far as the detailed search and the supplements?
Yeah, so currently we will provide 5 years worth of data so that you can search 5 years, and you'll have access to 5 years worth of supplements. Anything beyond 5 years, we do have an option in Class IT Plus where you can request access to something older.
Okay. And Holly, can you bring up one of the questions has got to do with the Class IT pricing?
Right.
And so we do have put that out there. And so we've got both the UI, and the API. And so a lot of people use the API, whether they integrate it with their billing, whether they integrate it with their TMS, or whether they do in-house, because they want to give it to their sales team because they don't need the full UI experience. And then some people just give everything for their UI. So we're going to show you what the cost is, whether you buy a package or whether or not you buy both. So as you can see, we do post that out there. And so depending on the subscription tier, how many seats, whether you're a member or not, I'll let Holly go through the pricing structure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like Joe was saying, we do have subscription tiers and we do give a 15% discount for our members. And for the web application, it is a per license purchase. So you will purchase a license for every user. And we do have a cap. If you are a member, we do have that price cap. And we also offer the API based on different types and subscription tier. So we do give that member price, that member discount versus non-member. When you purchase the ClassIT Plus API, it automatically includes one license for the ClassIT Plus web applications. And this is so that you can manage your own API settings and have access to certain other details that you would need to manage your API integration. We also offer additional discounts if you bundle. If you purchase both the web application and the API, we give an additional 30% off. And again, we still have that member, non-member pricing. So if you look at this table and you're a national level carrier, you will pay $102 per license plus 6,000 for the API. So we give that 30% discount on that website. We do not discount the API price further than the 15% discount. So as a member, you always get that 15% discount. And then we'll give you that additional discount if you purchase and bundle together for the web application.
And
And
then
this, go ahead.
the licensing I know is a named license.
Yep,
So it's not per computer, it's per user. So if I'm a user and I switch from my laptop to my tablet to my phone, that license follows me as a user.
correct.
So that because we do use Okta from a security perspective, that's the most secure. But keep in mind, it's people can't share logins, but also you can use it on multiple devices. But we want to make sure people understand that you do need one per user. Then if a user leaves the company, can I reassign that license to another person?
Yeah, absolutely. So we make it really easy for the company administrator to really manage their licenses. So they can add users and delete them. They can assign and unassign licenses. So like Joe was saying, if you do have a user that leaves the company, you don't have to purchase another license for the person who, replaces them. All you have to do is go in, you would unassign the license from that user. You can even clean up your user list and delete that user. And then you would add that new employee, that new user, and then you would assign them that license. So we really are as flexible as we can be, as well as secure. Like Joe was saying, one license, one user. And we do leverage Okta for that secure login process.
Okay. So Holly, can you show the indicator that in the for the handling stability? And then also, how does that show up in the API?
All right, so for the handling, let's see, 75925. You can see right here, let me zoom in a little bit so you guys can see. You can see here that HSL, that handling stability and liability, shows up as this little hand icon. And we will have like a little tooltip that will explain that. So this is how it looks in search results. It's a nice little indicator so that, it shows you immediately that this is HSL. Honestly, the question about the API is a good one. And for some reason, I don't have the answer off the top of my head, and I apologize. How does it come across through the API? That is one I'll have to follow up on.
Okay. So we do record all of these webinars, and which of these 4 websites can people find these webinars, Holly?
Yeah, they can go to classitplus.com and scroll to the bottom, and that's where our on-demand library is, and it contains all of our recorded webinars.
Okay. All right. Question, what do you mean you can't share login? So what I meant by that is, let's say Adam and I both work at the same company. We cannot share ClassIT Plus logins. He will need a login and a license. I'll need a login and a license. So that is 2 licenses. Now we can both use it on 5 devices, for example, but he can't use my login. I can't use his login, due to licenses, but also due to security. So that's what it means by not being able to share logins.
Yeah, and leveraging Okta, we actually allow each user to set up an MFA or multi-factor authentication. So your login is tied into your email address and your name. And then we provide that next level security for that MFA or the multi-factor authentication.
Okay. Adam, if on the lookup tool that the response you get is handling stowability liability indicator added, Holly showed what that means, but what does that mean from a shipping perspective?
Short answer is not much. The item is going to continue to apply the same way. That indicator doesn't change, the way the description is read or the way the classes are applied. It's basically just there to indicate to everybody that we developed those classes based on known handling, stowing, and or liability concerns.
Okay. And Adam, you mentioned the NMFC numbers should match the density. So the cube does not actually match the class for the NMFC. Can we utilize the class with the packaging as long as we list the NMFC code on the BOL?
So I might be misinterpreting this question, but I'll give my answer and you can follow up if I am.
Okay.
The packaging is included when you're calculating density. So if you pack up a pallet of your commodity with, classified by its NMFC code, and then you protect it with all kinds of packaging, you would then take your dimensions at that point, the finished handling unit before it leaves. You get the dimensions of that, you weigh that, and you calculate the density based on that. So so do not list packaging separately on the BOL or classify it separately, it's included with that density calculation of that commodity.
Okay. And one of the question, today's ClassIT does not have multi-factor authentication. And although the licensing model is that you can't share logins, people were, and the software didn't restrict it. And the same went for the SMC3 fast class. But the software didn't enforce it, both due to security and due to licensing. We are doing the Okta, and it keeps everybody safer. Also enforces the software licensing, and so that does not exist in today's ClassIT, but it will be in the new ClassIT Plus. And the last question that we've got, and then I do want to show the last slides and wrap it up. If we have ClassIT access now, we will receive communication to activate our ClassIT Plus credentials without needing to perform any other task or to reach out. Is that accurate?
Absolutely, 100% correct. If you're a current ClassIT subscriber with an active subscription, meaning it hasn't expired, you will receive communications. In fact, you will receive communications next week, and then you'll receive communications, like I said, either around July 7th or July 14th, depending on the level of user that you are, regarding how to set up that Okta activation.
Okay. All right. And then I know we never get through all the questions. We do have another one of these in 2 weeks. We're also looking at, what we want to do right around the launch, but we will plan on doing something right around the launch, just in case anybody has last questions. And then as far as on the road, we did our last pre-launch presentation at SMC3, but we do have some post-launch. So if you go to our website, you can look at our events. And then we also have a NMFT on the road website. You can see where we'll be displaying this, but we will have more coming up showing ClassIT Plus. So Adam, any last words?
I don't think anything to add. I think that about covers it.
Okay, Holly, anything?
No, just thank everyone for joining us today, and thank you to Adam for stepping in and filling Keith's shoes. I really appreciate it, and I think he did a really good job.
Happy
Yeah,
to be here.
thank you. Yeah, appreciate everybody. And like I said, we will do another one in 2 weeks. And based on the questions, we will look at possibly Aaron making that last one a little bit long, even maybe a little bit longer, to make sure we can get all the questions in. Thanks everyone for joining, and this is being recorded and we will post it on the website. Thanks everyone.
Bye, everyone.